Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Wright's Attorney Trials and Tribulations. In the last episode, we finished off the second investigation of the stolen Turnabout, investigating the murder of Kane Bullard, the CEO of KB Security, where Ron used to work. And I feel like, to be honest, we haven't really found out too much about the murder. I feel like a lot of stuff is going to be more revealed in this trial. So I guess without further ado, if we want to get past this, let's get going. October 14th, 9:41 a.m., District Court, Defendant Lobby number 4. Hey, Nick! What is it this time? You won't believe how many people are here for the trial! Well, it is a murder case. What are you talking about? They're here for the trial next door. Next door? Why don't you know this, Nick? They're having Detective Adme's trial today. Detective Adme? They say they're going to try him as Master Mask. Already? That was fast. Boy, I'd love to see Master Mask's trial. By the way, where's Pearls? Oh, she went back home. She said she can't neglect her training anymore. Pearls has really gotten into her training lately, huh? Yeah, ever since that incident last year. Please, don't ignore me! We couldn't even hear you. Oh, Mr. Light, good morning. No one likes me. No one would notice me even if I killed someone. Come on, don't be silly. Wait a sec. You don't mean you're the murderer? No, I'm just a poor thief. No, wait, that's not right. A thief can't really be poo. A thief can't really be poo. Now, let's see. According to Mr. Delight, from his second crime on, he was following a bunch of set plans. Plans that someone had been sending to him to help him commit the heists. Do you think there's a connection between the thief and the murderer, Nick? It's possible, but today's trial is a race against the clock. Huh? How come? Let's just take our time like always. I'm afraid that's not an option. October 14th, 10 a.m., District Court, Courtroom number 6. Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Ron Delight. The defense is ready, Your Honor. You're ready? Preparation is the last refuge of the weak. Okay, settle down, everyone. Let's begin with your opening statement, Mr. Godot. He's got the judge in the palm of his hands, yet again. Ron Delight is simply too young to be sent to war. That's all. I'm afraid I have no idea what that means, Mr. Godot. Ha! Then you need to get out more, Your Honor. Life is war, but that is exactly why you must be more precise in your wording. That's all my statement means. You understand now, right? Yes. Well then, let me briefly summarize the details of this case. Wow, the judge is taking charge like he knows what's going on for a change. The victim is Kane Bullard, CEO of KB Security. His body was found in a safe at approximately 9 a.m. on the morning of the 13th. However, the time of death was estimated at 1 a.m. the previous day. And that's when our lost little kitten dropped the ball. That little lost kitten is, of course, the defendant. Very well then, Mr. Godot, please call your first witness. I never drink more than 17 cups of coffee at any given trial. But the first one is always the best. Mr. Godot, your witness. Okay then, let's hear what the defendant, Mr. Ron Delight, has to say for himself. The defendant? Well, Mr. Wright, does the defense have any objections? It may be a bit of a disadvantage having the defendant testify, but... I remember when Mia was defending me. She allowed me to testify so she could do the cross-examination. She put a lot of trust in me back then. We have no objections, Your Honor. The defense will allow Mr. Delight to testify. Ha! You got guts, Wright. Alright then, Mr. Ron Delight, please take the stand. You did it, didn't you? Yes. What? No, that's not true. For a moment there, I thought we'd set the record for the shortest trial ever. Well, Mr. Light already looks plenty guilty with that face he's making. And once he opens his big mouth, he'll probably put the last nail in his own coffin. Ha! Very well. Now then, can you tell me something? If you didn't kill Bullard, why did you go to KB Security? Well, that's kind of hard to say. Boy, I wish I could go home. Now then, let's hear some testimony about what happened. That evening, around 1 a.m., I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at KB Security. The blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. I'd been working for KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was. 1 a.m., the exact time the murder took place. The weak get washed away by the tides of fate. The strong drink it up. Like coffee. It's bitter today, too. Just like my destiny. You'd never know that from the way he's chugging it down. Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, if you please. Okay. That evening around 1 a.m., I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at 1. Blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. I'd been working for KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was. So that was it. I guess we're just gonna press everything. 1 a.m., huh? You're absolutely sure about that? Yes, that's what my watch said when I was entering the CEO's office. No. Actually, I'm not really sure. My watch was slow and my internal clock was also a bit... 1 a.m. That's the exact time the victim, Mr. Bullard, was murdered, correct? It's too late for a coffee date, that's for sure. It ordered you there? It was the first time I'd gotten a blackmail letter that ordered me to go somewhere. Does that mean you've gotten other blackmail letters then? Oh, of course. They'd say things like, steal this or take that. Take that! Why don't you save those for later, Mr. Delight? Please don't say anymore. Now, what should I do? So what did the blackmail letter in question say? It said to bring $50,000. Money, eh? A perfect motive for committing murder. Oh, but wait! I never intended to pay that money anyway. Oh, is that right? After all, he had nothing to hold over my head. I had nothing to be afraid of. An important point indeed. Witness, let's have that added to your testimony. Yes, sir. Ha! A muddy mud skipper in outer space has a better chance of surviving than I do. What? The blackmail thread didn't scare me. It wasn't going to cause me... Just what were you being blackmailed about anyway? The blackmail letter said if you don't want your identity revealed, correct? I'm sure it was referring to the whole Master Mask thing. But I wasn't worried. Mr. Bullard didn't have anything on me. He didn't? Anyway, I don't care what anyone says about me. Just as long as Desi believes in me. So that's why Mr. Light didn't believe he was Master Mask. That's why I knew they were just hollow threats. You used to be a security chief for KB Security, right? Yes, that's right. A security chief? You? And yet, a year ago you were fired without notice. Revenge for an old grudge? A perfect motive for murder, wouldn't you say? This isn't good. Maybe I should change the subject? Mr. Delight, please tell us why you were fired from your job. Well... The world is filled with those who have said, I wish I had never asked that. Oh, okay, then I take it back. Defendant, please answer the question. I needed money. You needed money? Well, you see, Desi loves to spend it. It's kind of a hobby. Not exactly the best hobby in the world, huh, Nick? My salary wasn't nearly enough, so I stole data from the company. Come again? KB Security has a lot of security info on all sorts of companies, and since I was a security team chief, you stole some data and sold it. Mr. Bullard found out and I was fired immediately. What? I wish I had never asked that. I was somehow able to keep it secret and made it seem like I quit on my own. What is it, Nick? You don't look so good. Someone who brings harm to their company is fired as punishment. You do well to remember that. He sure told you. So you admit that you stole data from your company, is that correct? Yes, I'm sorry. This is a very important fact. Please add it to your testimony. Oh man, this whole thing just took a big turn for the worse. Crashed and blew up. It's gonna take the jaws of life to rip this case from the clutches of disaster. Mr. Delight, what you said just now doesn't match with what you told me yesterday. Huh? What doesn't? I think you must have been scared, very scared, of having a certain person find out your secret. A certain a certain person? Miss Desiree Delight, the defendant's wife. Oh, bye-bye! Listen to me! My Desi, she's... Looks like if I just sit back and relax, the fun will end before it truly begins. Godot. Yes, we know. It was all your wife's fault. What do you mean? Mr. Delight stole company data to pay for his wife's spending habit, for which he was fired. Unable to face his own wife, someone used his dirty little secret to blackmail him. And that is how this murder came about. No, everything is falling neatly into place for him. Don't talk about my Desi like that, or you'll be sorry! Well, it seems that we've learned a great deal of things here so far. What do you think, Nick? I didn't think it was possible to get so thoroughly whipped in just 20 minutes. Clearly there was sufficient motive for murder. He stole data for his wife and killed to protect his secret. A family man who cared just a little too much. The motive is clear. Let's move on. Ugh. What happened at the crime scene at 1 in the morning, Mr. Delight? Come now, tell us. We're all ears. When I entered the office, there was a suspicious person in there. Suspicious shadow. It's at me. Suddenly, I was hit on the forehead. After that, I remember being a bit dazed. If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. When I came to, Mr. Bullet was lying there, dead. If I hadn't been wearing what? I see. Suddenly hit on the forehead, huh? I believe the detective from yesterday provided similar testimony. He said that Master Mask struck him on the head from behind. Of course, since Amy turned out to be the culprit himself, that was all a lie. Ha! No one's gonna believe a pathetic lie like that. What are you saying? I really was attacked! We'll find out if what you say is true or not during the cross-examination. Got that, Mr. Wright? Don't go easy just because he's your client. If I see any sign that you are, I'll treat you to another cup of my special blend. You don't need to worry about that, Mr. Godot. I have faith in Ron. I know he didn't do it. Okay, when I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. Suddenly, I was hit on the forehead. After that, I remember being a bit dazed. If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. What is that? That? Could you please clarify what you were referring to? Why, my Master Mask costume, of course. Well, wait just a moment. Master Mask? Huh? Oh, did I forget to mention it before? Just to be on the safe side, I dressed as Master Mask. And then I descended upon the office of the CEO of KB Security. What? Nick, did you know about this? He never told me this. I don't recall him ever mentioning it to me either. Even I didn't know that. It seems our little friend really loves to keep secrets. I'm sorry, I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. Wait, that's not right. You know how sometimes things just slip your mind? Ha! My 6 cup of coffee is staring up at me coldly. At any rate, we can't ignore this new piece of information. Witness, please correct your testimony. I'd have been killed if I wasn't wearing my Master Mask costume. Why were you dressed up as Master Mask? Why, because I'm Master Mask, of course. What are you talking about? Master Mask's trial is being held next door. Yes, I guess so. Anyway, at that time, I thought I was being blackmailed over the Master Mask issue. So I thought I should go as him, just to be safe. Oh boy. Let me tell you, it's a real pain to move around with that cape. That's why it took a lot longer than I expected. Took a lot longer? What is he talking about? What do you mean by took a lot longer? Oh, opening the safe, of course. My cape got caught on the safe door, you see. This all happened when I was hiding Mr. Bullet's body. What was that? Back up a second. Yes? You were the one that hid the body in the safe? Yeah. Inconceivable! What the frick, Mr. Delight? Why? Just why? What reason could you have? What were you thinking? Question. When does someone toss their dirty shorts in the washing machine? Oh, what? The answer is simple. When they take them off. What the heck? As usual, I have no idea what you're saying. Me neither. Do you mean that Mr. Delight hid the body because he's the murderer? Ha! So you're not as stupid as you look. His metaphor this time was really obscure. Mr. Wright, you don't mean that you knew about this whole safe business, do you? Well, yes. Why am I the only one under the loop here? Witness, make sure you add this to the testimony. Yes, sir. Uh-oh, looks like a storm front is moving in over the fair weather judge. I panicked and hid the body in the safe. It took about 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. Your Honor, could you please take a look at this record? And what might this be? The record for the emergency buzzer that connects the CEO's office to security. If the button in the office is pressed, a security team is supposed to come running. And according to this record, the buzzer was pushed once at 1:02 a.m. What? If Mr. Rondelai truly was the murderer, he would have ran as soon as that buzzer sounded. After all, a security guard would have been heading his way. Ha! Let's remember who we're dealing with here. He probably had no idea there were security personnel in the building. Up until 1 year ago, my client was working as a chief of security. There's no way he wouldn't have known about them. But as it turns out, the guard never came. That was nothing more than a coincidence. The fact that the guard was a pathetic loser who had just gotten punched in the face by his ex's new boyfriend and wasn't anywhere in the vicinity was not something Mr. Delight could have known. Ha! Again, remember who we're dealing with here. It's a sure bet that Mr. Delight didn't even notice the buzzer going off. This buzzer is extremely loud. There's no way he could have ignored something like that. If he had been conscious, that is. Conscious? What do you mean by that? Ugh. Fine. Let's hear your theory. Remember the defendant's testimony. The moment he entered the victim's office, someone attacked him. Mr. Delight said he felt dazed. I'm willing to wager that he was knocked unconscious for at least a few minutes. Unconscious? So he fainted? That's why Mr. Delight didn't know that the buzzer had sounded. And that's why he thought he had time to hide the body. So what are you trying to say? Mr. Delight was knocked out, and the buzzer went off soon afterwards. Now, unless my client was able to hit the buzzer while he was unconscious, it can only mean that there was another person in that room. That's right. Whoever it was knocked out Ron Delight and then pressed the buzzer. It was Luke Adme because that was the silhouette that showed up. Order in the court, Mr. Wright. This is preposterous. It was this kid. Rhonda Light is the one who killed Kane Bullard. Then who pressed the buzzer? It was the victim, of course. He pressed the buzzer when the defendant attacked him. He didn't die right away. He must have held on long enough to push that button. So Cade Bullet sounded the buzzer himself. Did it say that he didn't die immediately? Cerebral hemorrhaging from... What is your opinion on this, Mr. Wright? I need to prove that the real criminal was there at the scene, but how? Can I prove that it wasn't Cade Bullard who sounded the buzzer? The defense's opinion is this, Your Honor. This piece of evidence proves that it wasn't the victim who sounded the buzzer. I believe this is the piece of incontrovertible evidence you were looking for. But the emergency buzzer? Is there some kind of clue on it? Absolutely not. Hey, come on now, at least give some thought to what you say before opening your mouth. The fact that there are absolutely no clues is itself the clue. Now I'm the one who's clueless. This button has no fingerprints on it. If Mr. Bullet had really pressed it himself, naturally he would have left his fingerprints behind. Phew! Rhonda Light obviously wiped them off. Why would he? A guard could have come in at any moment. He touched that button, I know he did! The defendant, Mr. Delight, was dressed as Master Mask. And Master Mask always wears gloves. What reason could he possibly have had to wipe the button free of fingerprints? Order, order, order! Ha! It would seem. I've been forced to eat crow. I wonder what blend number crow flavor coffee is. I wonder what crow even tastes like. What the hell? However, if the real killer was there at the scene, why would that person press the emergency buzzer? Shouldn't they have run away without putting themselves in extra danger? What the frick, Mr. Wright? What's with this awkward silence all of a sudden? Ha! Looks like you're fresh out of parlor tricks. They're on to you, Nick! Just give me a minute to collect my thoughts. The real culprit killed Mr. Bullet around 1 a.m. And Mr. Delight just happened to waltz in when the murder was taking place, right? The killer clobbered Mr. Delight and then sounded the buzzer. Even though security was supposed to respond right away if the buzzer was pressed. Security was supposed to respond? Time's up, Mr. Wright. Let's hear what you have to say. Very well then. Oh, you've got some guts. I like that in an opponent. Why did the real killer sound the emergency buzzer? To find out what it did? To call the security guard? To find out... But it's an emergency buzzer, of course it's gonna call. To find out what it did? The killer knew that if they pressed that button, a guard would come running. And that was exactly what they wanted. Do you mean to say the killer called the guard on purpose? Yes. Although, as it turns out, he never showed up. Because he was getting his clock clean at the time. Ha! What a touching story. You're saying the killer had a change of heart and called the guard to turn himself in. No, I'm not. When that buzzer sounded, there were 3 people in that office. The victim, Cade Bullard, who was already dead. The defendant, Rhonda Light, who was out cold. And the third person, the real killer, whose silhouette looks a lot like Adme, but we're not going to say that yet. Hypothetically, yes. Now then, in this situation, if the real killer made an escape, what would happen? The only ones left in the room would be the victim and Rhonda Light. And if any security guards came running in at the time, they would think that I was the murderer. Yes, that was precisely the real killer's objective, to frame Rhonda Light for the murder. Order! Ha! It would seem. I've been made to eat my words once again. Actually, you've been made to do a spit take. With a cup of coffee. Mr. Wright, who was it? Who was it that tried to frame me? Wait a second. I'm the one and only Master Mask, so... Nick, you mean the real killer is... We're going to drag that person in here right now. But who is it? I don't have any solid proof yet, but think about it. The killer knew Mr. Delight's identity, and they also knew that he had been called to KP security that night. So the killer used him to execute a well-crafted plan to murder Kane Bullard. Now then, let's hear your accusation, Mr. Wright. Who was it that framed Mr. Ron Delight for the murder of Kane Bullard? I know exactly who it is. Detective Luke Atme. He's the only one who could have done it. Ace detective. Luke Atme? You mean Master Mask did it? Your Honor, the person being tried in the court next to us is not Master Mask at all. He is, in actuality, the true murderer of Kane Bullard. Order! Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Theft and murder. Which is the more serious crime? They're not even close. Murder is the more serious crime, of course. It's a capital crime subject to a capital punishment. Please remember that the trial from yesterday, if you would. Well, I was about to start laughing. When Luke Atme confessed, there was a large commotion in the courtroom. Of course, a famous detective was unmasked as, well, Master Mask. Instead of being convicted of murder, he was found guilty of grand larceny. That was his true objective all along. To be found guilty! Master Mask had the perfect alibi for when the murder took place. He was stealing the urn at Lordly Taylor. In other words, being found guilty as Master Mask was Luke Atme's airtight, watertight, and unassailable alibi. Is that how you say that? A guilty verdict as an alibi? You know, it's almost time. For what? For Luke Atme's verdict. It was a pretty simple trial after all. If we're gonna stop this trial and stall that one, we need to do it now. Of course. That's assuming you have proof that the detective was the one who committed the murder. Shit. Mr. Luke Atme's trial has indeed attracted the attention of the entire country. If we were to intrude and fail to provide adequate proof of his true crime, Mr. Delight would be left with no grounds for appeal. Am I really sure about this? Ha! A bet's only good when your life's the ante. Mr. Wright, I believe in you! Mr. Delight. So, please, I'm begging you! Thanks, but my decision will determine the rest of your life. Can I really risk your life like this? Phoenix. What was that? Don't stray, Phoenix. For your client, take the path of trust. That voice. It sounds like... Mia! Your Honor, the defense requests an immediate recess. Ha! So that's your answer, huh? Very well. I've decided as well. This court will now take a 20-minute recess. Mr. Wright, when we return, please summon Mr. Luke Atme to the stand. Yes, Your Honor. October 14th, 11:58 a.m., District Court, Quorum Number 5. Well, Sir Detective Atme? I have to say, Mr. Payne, you performed splendidly. Oh, no, Sir Detective Atme. You were the one who... That's enough. This court sees no reason to further prolong this trial. This court finds the defendant Luke Atme. Wait! Don't hand down your verdict yet, please! Well, Sir Lawyer, welcome to my courtroom. Who's this house, alright? My name is Phoenix Wright, attorney at law, and I wish to file an accusation against this man, Luke Atme. Accusation? You accuse Master Mask? That man is not Master Mask. He's just a ruthless murderer. What? That's right, you better be sweating. You better be sweating. Heck yeah. All right. This is gonna get interesting. Well, then join me next time for the cross-examination of Luke Adme, and maybe we'll be able to convict him next episode. That's it for this episode. Roll the end card.
Objection! You haven't hit like and subscribe yet. Hold it! You forgot to ring the bell to get notified whenever I upload. Take that! Click here to watch more of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye!